What is up, YouTube? My name is Eben, and today we are going to be taking a look at Ho-Oh EX, of which we are running 3 copies. It is 180 HP, which is pretty boss, and it's got an ability that if we have a fire energy attached to him once per turn, allows us to heal 50 damage, which means if we can retreat around and get some shenanigans going, this guy actually has some pretty hefty longevity, especially if we throw like a Fighting Fury belt on there, for example. Spoilers for later in the video. And he has an attack with, admittedly, kind of a complex energy cost, but that's alright. We got ways of dealing with that. You're going to see in just a second. That for 1 grass, 1 water, and 1 lightning, so if we want to use purifying fire, obviously, that's sort of 4 energy. But for those 3 energies, he deals 130 and 30 to one of their benched Pokemon. So pretty cool, and we're going to be trying to exploit this guy and his attack and kind of the concept behind it by racking up a little bit of damage on our opponent's bench and then picking up Elemental Feather Okos just a little bit after that. So we're going to be looking at like manipulating our opponent's Pokemon a little more than usual. Things like that there, and definitely trying to keep Ho-Oh alive and exploit that hefty HP and healing ability. Now to support him, pretty much the most obvious way is going to be Mega Manectric, and this isn't necessarily anything new. But Free Retreat's good, of course, and his Turbo Bolt allows us to pick any 2 basics. So we're going to be able to easily fit our color requirements for a Ho-Oh EX on the bench with this guy. Very quick power up, basically whatever energy you got in your hand, you take the 2 you don't already have that you've probably battle compressed or ultra balled, and you slap them on your Ho-Oh EX, and all of a sudden what looks like a complex and challenging energy requirement is actually pretty easy. Pretty easy to meet. We're running 4 Manectric EX to power up our Mega Man, mainly because this guy is pretty much our ideal starting Pokemon. And he's good in his own right, plus he does bench damage himself, and Assault Laser helps us pick up easy KOs. With the Lysanders, we're definitely going to be trying to focus on in this deck, on things like Shaman EX and Yveltal as well. So this guy is just so good, we're definitely going to be running 4. We're also running Hoopa EX. This can obviously get our Ho-Oh, but it gets the Manectric EX and the Mega Manectric EX, whichever one we need or ones we need, and it also gets our support Pokemon, so it's just an excellent target for things like Ultra Ball right there. One of the things you can, of course, crucially pick up with him is Shaman. You just play the other things out of your hand first, obviously, that you just searched with Hoopa, and this one's the last one you play, so your hand isn't overly stocked, even though you just searched 3 things. We're just running the 2 Shaman because we got plenty of search for it. That's really all we need is just the 2, and I kind of like 2, honestly. That seems to be pretty effective for the most part, unless you just get really badly treated on your prizes. So 2 Shamans, and we're running 1 Manaphy. It may seem a little counterintuitive for us to run this, but the ability to switch between Ho-Ohs without having to use Mega Manectric in between to get those energies back on from paying that 2 energy retreat is worth running the Manaphy here, because Manaphy will give that Ho-Oh a free retreat, so you can switch from one Ho-Oh to another after taking a big hit, and you can let that Purifying Fire just heal it up several turns running, and completely erase a potentially very big hit of like well over 100. So Manaphy's pretty good for that, and obviously he makes Hoopa and Shaman and things like that on the bench a lot less of a liability because you can just attach a water and freely retreat them. But of course, getting the right color energy isn't always going to be that easy, but that's why we've got Smeargle, because he can definitely change any energy into any other energy and kind of manipulate what is kind of a complex energy base in such a way that it becomes pretty easy to get things out of the active slot with Manaphy, or make sure Ho-Oh's got his fire energy, or whatever you need. Supporter-wise, we're just running these 4 lovely Professor Sycamores because we definitely want to ditch quite a few things in our deck into our discard pile, and this is heavy, consistent drawing, so enough said right there. That's definitely the full complement of 4 on that guy. We're just running 2 ends because he's good to us early game, but we may very well be picking up a lot of KOs, so we don't want to overdo it, and we got enough Mega Mans, we're not really worried about just sending them back when we draw cards, or discarding them rather. Two's good, two's cooking. Speaking of things that come in pairs, Lysander. Usually I think 1 is more than enough, but because we're quite emphasizing how powerful this is in our deck and we have so many ways to exploit it in this meta, we're definitely taking advantage of 2 because we want to pick up lots of KOs. We want to definitely manipulate the right KOs, etc. We're living for those double prizes in this deck and making sure our opponents can't really set up to hit back hard enough to matter. So that's definitely why we're running those 2. We're running AZ. This can be a great way to put energies back to our discard for Mega Man, which is no problem, and erase damage in a pinch if we need to. And of course, it gets things like Hoopa and Shaman off the bench, which is always nice. We're running Hex Maniac because we are super EX heavy, as you might have noticed. So this can be a way to get around things like Carbink, and add some other nice play value as well. So kind of a must-have for us. Now, we're not really, spoilers on this one for a second, we are not really running a stadium. And by that, I mean we're not running a stadium. There isn't really an ideal stadium for us in this deck particularly, and there are a lot of stadiums that can be problematic to us, but most we can kind of ignore. So rather than run stadiums just to block other stadiums, we're going to run a nice Versus Seeker utility target here. They can definitely take advantage of other stadiums and potentially put the screws on our opponent, especially if they just end and say went to 6 or less cards and then played out a couple of them. You might have guessed it's Delinquent. It torches their stadium and at the same time forces them to discard, which when you play it at the correct time can be very punishing. And obviously getting rid of their stadium with your stadium can be problematic in an already difficult matchup like Primal Groudon. So Delinquent kind of really punishes that, and it's just a really nice card if you play it judiciously, play it correctly. For the most part, it's going to be a battle compressor target for us, but it's a nice utility card for us in every match, but especially those ones where the stadium is actually kind of problematic for us. Speaking of utility supporters, we do have Zerosic. The main reason he made the list is to block Fighting Fury Belt. That's basically the main reason. Fighting Fury Belt puts a number of things out of our KO range, and this allows us to just go ahead and pick up that KO. And yes, you can also stall by removing special energies, but that's part of our supporter utility, Versus Seeker utility box we're trying to achieve in this deck. So that's why he made the cut. So we're running a little more in the way of supporters than I usually do, but it's all good. 4 Versus Seekers, obviously, for that mentioned utility box. And we got 4 Ultra Balls, because obviously the discards are amazing and the Pokemon searches are amazing, and that's really not new information for anybody out there. We're running 3 Battle Compressors, because 4 is just kind of excessive, and this is more than enough since we have Ultra Ball and Professor Sycamore and all that good business. But it can sack the right energies to make sure our Mega Man is happy, to make our Ho-Oh happy, and it also gets those extra supporters you don't necessarily want to draw, like Delinquent and Zerosic. And easy all those into your discard pile for access later. We got 3 Manectric Spirit Links, 1 for each one of your Mega Manectrics, pretty straightforward there. And we've got 3 Fighting Fury Belts, because these look amazing on our Ho-Oh EX, because the extra 10 damage, well, it's not necessarily the most important, but taking his 180 HP and pushing it to 220, especially in conjunction with his ability to heal 50 every turn, can make him very difficult for people to push through. And that's one thing we definitely want to capitalize on, so that's why we're running these. And yeah, it also looks good on a couple of our other mons, obviously, but that's where it is meant to be. We are running 1 copy of Energy Switch. This can get a necessary energy off of, say, your Mega Manectric to make sure your Ho-Oh goes off, things like that, so that's why we do have it here. It's just a nice little one-of utility option there. And our last item, we are running 2 Trainer's Mail. I mean, you can opt for things like Escape Rope here, or maybe an Enhanced Hammer, depending on your local meta. I just like the generically useful enhancement of the Trainer's Mail itself, just to get those other items and supporters and make sure we kind of are a little bit more consistent. You could even opt for Acro Bike if you really want to, but I think Trainer's Mail is just digging a little deeper is probably a little bit better in the long run, so that's why I opted for it. You can experiment and opt for what you like, but that's for me. Energy-wise, we're running 5 Electric Energies, basic, because that's really just kind of the one we need, quote-unquote, the most, because Ho-Oh needs it, but also our Mega Manectric needs one and kind of has to have that one. So we are running the 5 of that. How dare you not fall correctly. And our other energies, we're trying to just battle compress these and search them back on, but it doesn't hurt to top deck them. We're running 3 grass energies, because that'll definitely prevent us from prizing them in an awkward way. And we're running 3 water energies, not only because they help Ho-Oh, but of course also because they can mean free retreats. And don't worry about the fact that obviously you've only got the 3, and what if I attach them in a weird way to get a free retreat, and then later on that might be a problem? It won't be a problem, because you've got Smeargle, remember, who can switch these into the discard pile and back out and things like that there. So don't worry too much about it, and in a pinch you can always retreat things to discard energies off this way and not use Manaphy EX, so kind of play it according to the situation. And we do also have 2 fire energies, just to make sure that we can always exploit Ho-Oh's Purifying Flame as much as possible. Just because if we have 1, obviously it could be prized, and we're not running the town map to make sure we cherry pick the 1, and it's not really worth it. So 2 pretty much gives us that guarantee for the most part, and if we do manage to prize both, well, that's not the worst thing, so it doesn't actually need it to attack. So we're fine on that, and that's our energy count. We're running 13, but we're going to send a lot of them to our discard pile via battle compressors and ultra balls and things, so it's not too many really at all. And anyway, that is the deck. I recommend you go out and give it a try. Be sure to give a like and a sub and that kind of stuff for more things like this. We are definitely going to be seeing an update in our schedule as of next week. I look forward to seeing you then, and I am going to get out of here, and I will see you next time.